I was updating a routine compliance tracker when the video call flickered on by itself. The kind of thing that usually means someone's late or IT is testing something without warning. I didn't look up right away. I finished the cell I was in, saved the file, then raised my eyes. The CFO cleared his throat and said, "Everyone, this is Evan. He's here to help us streamline." Evan smiled. He looked young in that very specific way. Pressed shirt, bright teeth, confidence that hadn't been tested yet. He leaned closer to the camera and said almost cheerfully, "We're going to take a hard look at legacy overhead." Legacy overhead. I felt the words land and pass through me without sticking. I didn't react. I just listened. Somewhere behind him, a glass wall reflected rows of empty desks. He spoke about efficiency and alignment, about removing friction. His eyes drifted, paused, then stopped, right where my camera box sat. I clicked Save As on a folder I kept open, renamed it something boring, and backed it up to a personal drive. Then I muted myself again. That was the first moment, the one that stayed quiet. Later that day, the office smelled like burnt coffee and printer toner, the kind of smell that settles in your clothes. I could hear Evan laughing in the break area with a couple of junior analysts. I didn't catch every word, just enough to recognize the tone. Light, confident, unconcerned. I've worked in compliance a long time, long enough to know that tone. By mid-afternoon, we were called into a standing huddle. No chairs, no notes, just a semicircle around a screen full of boxes and arrows. Evan talked through a deck filled with phrases that sounded useful without saying much. People nodded, someone scribbled, someone else took a photo of the slide like it was important. Then he said, "Some roles tied to older processes may be reassessed." He didn't raise his voice. He didn't look dramatic. He just glanced at me and moved on. I smiled politely, the kind you use when you don't need to explain yourself. That evening, I stayed late. Not because anyone asked, because I wanted to see everything where it was supposed to be. The building was quieter after 6. Lights dimmed. The hum of servers steadied. I logged into 3 separate systems and checked my credentials one by one. Everything still active. Everything still under my name. Before I left, I printed one page from my contract, folded it neatly, slid it into my bag. The next morning, Evan passed my desk and said, "Hope you're feeling flexible this week." I nodded, then I waited. By Tuesday, the office had shifted in small ways that were easy to miss if you weren't paying attention. Desks rearranged, access badges taking a second longer to scan, conversations stopping when someone walked past. Evan held short meetings that weren't on the calendar. Doors closed, voices low. When they opened again, people came out nodding, a little flushed, like they'd just agreed to something without fully understanding it. At lunch, I ate at my desk. Salad from a plastic container. The fork made a soft tapping sound against the rim. Across the room, 2 new hires were whispering over a printout of one of my old process maps. I didn't hear what they said. I didn't need to. The tone was enough. That afternoon, an email went out, role evolution check-ins, 10 minutes each, mandatory, framed like a growth exercise. Mine was scheduled for Thursday at 9:20 a.m. I didn't prepare a presentation. I didn't update my resume. I reviewed records. At home that night, I logged into a system I'd built years earlier. Nothing flashy, just careful. Every license, every renewal date, every authority chain. I checked timestamps, cross-referenced governing bodies, made a copy and stored it somewhere quiet. Wednesday morning, I lost access to 2 internal dashboards. No warning, just an error message and a suggestion to contact your administrator. I sent a polite email. No reply. HR routed my follow-up back to Evan. By noon, my inspection prep work had been reassigned to someone from marketing. She stopped by my desk to ask what one of the acronyms meant. I answered calmly. She thanked me and left, already typing on her phone. An hour later, Evan asked me to reorganize a supply cabinet. He framed it as foundational visibility. I nodded and did it. Lined up bottles, checked labels, took my time. When I asked if I still had admin access to the licensing dashboard, he blinked once and said, "Oh, I think we moved that." I didn't argue. I logged into a terminal down the hall and quietly adjusted permissions from a panel no one else remembered existed. Thursday came quickly. Evan barely looked up when I sat down across from him. He talked about tenure, about appreciation, about moving forward. He showed me an org chart where my role had been grayed out and labeled to be reassigned. I listened. I said very little. When I stood to leave, he smiled and said, "We'll circle back." That evening, I stopped by a notary office above a nail salon. Fluorescent lights, a ticking clock. I had one document notarized and left it unsigned, just in case. Friday passed quietly, almost too quietly. On Monday, we were all called into another standing meeting. Evan spoke about candor, about momentum. He stopped behind my chair and said my position was no longer aligned with the company's direction. No meeting, no warning, just that sentence. HR handed me a folder. I signed once, asked for a printed copy, put it in my bag. I walked out with steady hands and even steps. That night, my phone buzzed once while I was heating leftovers, a confirmation message, short, formal. I put the phone face down on the counter. Then I waited. The confirmation sat there quietly, no urgency, no explanation, just a record. I didn't open anything else that night. I washed the fork, dried the container, and left the kitchen the way I like it, nothing out of place. Then I went to bed and slept straight through. Tuesday morning, I woke up without an alarm. The apartment was still. I made coffee and let it cool a little before drinking it. My phone stayed on the table, face down, until it buzzed again. Then again. I didn't answer. Around 9, messages started coming in from people who normally never contacted me directly. Short questions, careful wording. Do you know who handles? Quick check on. We're getting an error on. I read them. I didn't respond. At 9:12 a.m., a former analyst sent a screenshot. A vendor portal rejection, license inactive. At 9:19, another message came through, this one from someone in operations. API sync failed. At 9:27, a compliance alert flagged a scheduled data transfer as invalid. I set my mug down and opened my laptop. Not to fix anything, just to observe. By mid-morning, the internal dashboard I'd designed years ago was lighting up. Red markers where green used to sit, orphaned credentials, expired authority tags, each one time-stamped, each one predictable. Someone had tried to override a restriction, the system logged it. Someone else attempted access from an unauthorized profile, logged. A third attempt tripped an internal audit notification. I closed the laptop. Around lunchtime, a colleague forwarded me part of an email chain. No commentary, just the thread. Evan asking legal how to update contact info. Someone replying that certification didn't work that way. Silence after that. I ate soup. Then I ate half a sandwich. Then I stopped when I was full. That afternoon, my phone rang. I let it go to voicemail. Then another call. Then a text that just said, "Can you call me?" I didn't. At 4:18 p.m., a notice came through from a federal portal. Standard language, neutral tone, entities dependent on specific licenses would be marked non-compliant within 24 hours unless reauthorized. I read it once, then once more, then archived it. Wednesday morning started faster. Procurement couldn't release shipments. A third-party inspection tool returned an error. Someone tried resetting a credential tied to my old profile and got a user not found response. By then, people weren't asking questions anymore. They were reacting. I received a call from someone I trusted. She didn't raise her voice. She didn't accuse. She just asked, very quietly, "Did you know this would happen?" I answered honestly. I knew the rules. There was a pause on the line, not confusion, recognition. That afternoon, a calendar alert went out company-wide. Regulatory site visit, confirmed. No drama. Just a time and an address. I closed my laptop and went for a walk. The air was cool. Traffic moved steadily. Someone laughed on a nearby patio. Life continued, completely uninterested in what was unraveling across town. When I got back, there was one new voicemail. This one from an executive assistant. Very polite, very careful. She asked me to call back at my earliest convenience. I put the phone on silent. Then I waited. By Thursday morning, the pattern was clear. Not emotionally, logistically. I sat at my dining table with a notebook and wrote 3 lines. Step 1, say nothing. Step 2, let systems speak. Step 3, document time. Silence wasn't avoidance, it was alignment. At 8:46 a.m., an automated alert flagged a vendor freeze. At 9:03, another flagged a secondary dependency tied to the first. The licenses weren't just permissions, they were anchors. Pull one, and the rest drifted. I checked the timestamps. Everything moved exactly as designed. Around 10, I received a call from someone in documentation. She'd always been kind. She asked carefully if I'd meant for this to happen. I told her I'd followed procedure. She didn't argue. An hour later, a message came through from legal. Neutral subject line, quick question. The body was longer. They asked if there was a way to temporarily reinstate my authority to allow inspections to proceed. I read it once. Then I pulled up my contract. Section 7C sat there, unchanged. Clear language, no exceptions, no shortcuts. I saved a copy with the relevant lines highlighted and attached it to a reply. No commentary, just the document. By early afternoon, internal chatter leaked through again. Someone had attempted to access the federal portal using my old credentials. The request failed. The system logged it. Another rule triggered. At 2:11 p.m., a formal notice posted, audit delayed due to absence of licensed compliance officer. That wasn't drama, that was math. I spent the rest of the afternoon doing normal things, laundry, emails unrelated to work, a grocery run. When I got home, there were 6 unread messages from numbers I recognized and one from a number I didn't. The unknown one left a voicemail. A man introduced himself as representing executive leadership. He said they recognized the oversight and wanted to talk options. I didn't delete it. I didn't reply. Friday morning, the notification arrived. Official, third party, a regulatory body confirming non-compliance status pending review. It included dates, reference numbers, no adjectives. I printed it and set it on the table. Later that morning, another message came through, this one shorter, direct, from the CEO. Please call me. I waited until the afternoon, then I sent a single response. I'm unavailable, please put everything in writing. An hour passed, then 2. Then a new email arrived with an attachment, a proposed consulting agreement, temporary, confidential, generous in places that didn't matter, silent where it should have spoken. I read it slowly, twice. Then I closed the laptop and made tea. Outside, the light shifted. Somewhere across the city, meetings were happening without me, voices were rising, fingers pointed, timelines reviewed. I didn't need to be there. I sat at the table, hands wrapped around the mug, and waited for the next document to arrive. The call came the next morning. Not from an assistant, not from legal, from the CEO himself. I let it ring once longer than necessary, then answered. He didn't raise his voice. He didn't waste time. He said my name, asked how I was doing, and thanked me for picking up. His tone was controlled, the way people sound when they already know the numbers are bad. He said they wanted to resolve the situation quickly. I listened. He talked about misunderstandings, about rapid changes, about how my departure hadn't been handled with enough context. He said the company was facing unexpected operational friction. I let him finish. Then I said, everything that's happening follows written policy. There was a pause. Paper shifted on his end. I imagined him looking at a document he'd only skimmed before. He asked if I would consider coming back, even temporarily, to help stabilize things. I said, I'm not an employee. Another pause. He pivoted. Consulting. Short-term authority. Emergency reinstatement. He said they were prepared to be flexible. I told him flexibility wasn't the issue. I walked him through it calmly. Step 1, my termination activated a contractual clause. Step 2, that clause triggered automatic revocation across federal registries. Step 3, reinstatement required full recertification, which I no longer controlled. I didn't argue, I didn't blame, I stated sequence. He asked if there was any workaround. I said no, not harshly, not triumphantly, just no. He sighed. The sound carried more weight than anything else he'd said. Then he asked why no one had explained this to them earlier. I answered honestly, I had. The line went quiet. He asked what it would take for me to help. I told him I don't return to places that remove authority and then ask for it back under pressure. I said it once, evenly, and stopped. He didn't push after that. He said he understood. He thanked me for my time. When the call ended, I didn't sit there replaying it. I stood up, rinsed my mug, and put it in the rack. An email arrived 20 minutes later, more formal than the last. A revised offer, higher numbers, longer term, still no apology, still framed as mutual benefit. I replied with 1 sentence and 3 attachments. The sentence acknowledged receipt. The attachments were my signed termination notice, the highlighted contract clause, a compliance dashboard screenshot showing inactive status, time-stamped 72 hours post-termination, no commentary, no emotion. I sent it and archived the thread. That afternoon, messages stopped coming in waves. They slowed, spaced out. People had run out of things to ask. Across town, meetings were ending without conclusions. Timelines extended, calendars filled with placeholders. I went for another walk. The weather hadn't changed, the city hadn't noticed. When I got back, there was nothing new in my inbox. That was how I knew the confrontation was over. They understood the rules now, and I was done explaining them. The consequences didn't arrive all at once. They moved in sequence. Monday morning, a third-party inspection report was logged as incomplete. Not failed, incomplete. The language mattered. It meant the auditors couldn't proceed without a licensed compliance officer present. No officer, no inspection, no clearance. By midday, 2 vendors issued formal notices. Shipments suspended pending verification. Their emails were polite, carefully worded. They referenced clauses, not emotions. Tuesday followed the same pattern. Another dependency flagged, another client asked for clarification, another internal system marked a process as paused. Nothing dramatic, just accumulation. I received 1 final message from legal. This one wasn't asking anymore. It was confirming receipt of my documents and acknowledging that reinstatement timelines were outside acceptable operational thresholds. I read it and archived it. Later that afternoon, a former manager forwarded me an internal memo. Leadership restructuring, temporary role adjustments, language designed to sound proactive while quietly admitting fault. Evan's name appeared once, then not at all. By Wednesday, industry chatter started. Nothing public, just quiet questions passed between compliance teams the way weather reports travel. Who's active? Who's flagged? Who's safe to work with right now? I didn't add commentary. My name didn't need it. That same day, I received an offer from another firm, not flashy, direct. They referenced my work by outcome, not title. They asked if I was open to a conversation. I said yes. The call lasted 20 minutes. They asked how I handled pressure. I told them I follow process. They asked how I manage authority. I said I respect it. They didn't ask why I'd left my previous role. They already knew enough. The paperwork came through on Friday, clean, clear. Boundaries spelled out, authority defined and protected. I signed it Monday morning. Back at my old company, remediation plans were still circulating. Appeals filed, fees accruing, nothing illegal, just expensive. Someone told me the dashboard never fully turned green again. Too many resets, too many gaps. Trust takes longer to renew than licenses. I didn't check myself. By the end of the week, my old access profiles had been fully purged from their systems. Not revoked, removed, final. That was appropriate. On my last afternoon before starting the new role, I cleaned my apartment, threw out old notebooks, recycled printed drafts. I found the folded contract page in my bag and placed it in a folder with other completed things. Then I closed it. There was nothing left to resolve. Everything had already followed its course. The first morning in my new role was quiet. No rush, no standing meetings. No speeches about momentum. I arrived early anyway. Habit. The building smelled clean, like fresh paper and coffee that hadn't been burned yet. I unlocked my office, set my bag down, and spent a few minutes organizing the desk before turning on the computer. Authority was already in place. Access worked. Nothing flickered. That mattered more than any welcome email. At home that evening, I cooked something simple, chopped vegetables, let the pan heat properly, ate slowly. The week settled behind me the way a door does when it closes without resistance. A few days later, I saw the update without looking for it. An industry alert, neutral headline, My former company listed as pending remediation. No commentary, just status. I acknowledged it once and moved on. Power doesn't feel loud when it's real. It feels orderly. Over the next weeks, small messages came in from people I hadn't spoken to in years. Quiet questions, careful phrasing. Can I ask how you handled? I think I might be in something similar. Do you have a minute? Sometimes I answered, sometimes I didn't. I learned to choose. One evening after work, I cleaned out a drawer at home and found an old sticky note from years ago. 5 words written quickly, meant only for me. I threw it away. I didn't need reminders anymore. What stayed with me wasn't what they lost. It was what they never saw. Systems remember. Documents don't forget. And silence, used correctly, carries more authority than any meeting ever will. Somewhere, someone else is probably being told they're redundant right now, sitting quietly, listening carefully, not reacting. If that's you, just know this. Clarity always outlasts noise. And if you want to hear more stories like this, calm ones, real ones, about people navigating work, power, and quiet leverage, feel free to stay. Go ahead and like the video if it helped you unwind a bit. Subscribe if you want to keep this space steady and familiar. And if you're comfortable, drop a comment with the city you're watching from and what time it is where you are. I like knowing where these stories land. 2 more popular stories are coming up next. Take care of yourself.